I'm Charlotte, and you're watching The Ugly Atheist. Today's episode, I am going to read from another r slash. Am I the anus? r slash. Am I the a-hole? This one is kind of interesting. It's from the dad's perspective, looks like. So let me pull this up here. I'm going to pull it up on my phone, then I'll put it up on the screen for you to follow along. So this one is, okay. The title is, Am I the Anus for Forcing My Kid to Go to Different Churches and Temples to Learn About Religion? So this title sounds like a no-brainer at first. Like, no, you got to teach your kids about religion. You know, that's part of being a human, is delving into and understanding the different religions, you know. But let's read it. Let's get into it. It says, my daughter is in 8th grade. So it says here she's 13 years old, and we are not a religious household. I got called in last week for her bullying a girl. Okay, so that's horrible. Long story short, Maggie must be the student who was bullied by this guy's daughter. Maggie brought in her grandma's rosemary. It's supposed to be rosary, I think. And my daughter took it and made fun of her for believing in her religion. The whole thing ended with it breaking. The rosary ended up breaking. My voice is still kind of cackly from my cold, residuals of my cold, I guess. So sorry about that. Let's see. She got detention. So this guy's daughter got detention, and I had the conversation about respecting people, even if you don't believe what they believe within reason, especially when they weren't doing anything wrong. If she was saying effed up crap, that would be different, but she wasn't. She doubled down, saying that she did nothing wrong. If you're having the talk with your child at age 13 about respecting other people, you've kind of missed the boat on a lot of things. But let's read on to the end of this. I had enough, and I told her she will be learning about religion. She thought I was joking. Today I took her to mass. It was fine, nothing shocking. We got in an argument in the car when I told her we will be taking her to the synagogue this weekend. So apparently she's upset about going to a Jewish place of worship, but was more or less fine with the Catholic Mass. This resulted in an argument, and she thinks I'm a jerk. My aunt is now on my butt about this, and my wife thinks I'm going too far. Okay, well, it seems to me at face value that this is an example of more so clueless parents. As I mentioned earlier, if at age 13 you had to have the talk with her about respecting people, you know, this obviously is a conversation that shouldn't even necessarily have to be had merely a one sentence reference to the idea of respecting people, but more importantly, from an early age, this should have been modeled by her family, by her mom and dad, respecting others. It's a non-religious household, and so what it seems to me is this family, this mom and dad, aren't terribly active in their child's life and their child's upbringing. It could possibly be a separated household, a broken household, where it doesn't say that, but that could be one reason why there's a lack of attention given to the child. Because if the child's acting out in school, it's not because she inherently dislikes Catholicism and rosaries. It's an indicator that she isn't getting the attention that she needs and the places that she needs it, which is namely the home. So when kids don't get their emotional needs met in their sanctuary, which is your home is supposed to be your sanctuary from the world, at least that's my opinion, then they are going to seek that attention elsewhere. They're looking for significance. They're looking for a sense that they are contributing to the world, and that they're making a difference in the world around them. And the easiest way to get that fix is through negative behavior, negative acting out. And if you imagine a scenario where the girl shows the rosary, this Maggie girl shows her rosary, and the let's say this guy's daughter just says, "Oh, that's pretty cool. It looks pretty," and then that's it. Then the girl next day is probably not going to remember much about that exchange, and the guy's daughter is not going to have her need for attention met, or her need for significance, I should say. It's not going to be met. However, the alternative, if she does something negative, then by all means, this Maggie girl is going to remember for a very long time, and is going to have a negative reaction to this guy's daughter, and it's going to meet that in a very twisted way. It's going to meet that need for significance, for being acknowledged, and for having an impact in the lives of people around her. And it's much more impactful to do something negative to somebody to get that attention than to do something positive and constructive. It takes probably way more positive interactions for a person to remember you than negative reactions. So it's more economical in terms of emotional energy and investing in people. It's much more economical to do something horrible and bad, like breaking a rosary. So because this guy's daughter is not getting her emotional needs met in the house, she needs to feel that significance that only her household should be able to supply her from an early age, or her family rather. And the dad thinking that this is about religion and about respect, I think he's missing the boat. If you have a tree and some of the branches are dying and the leaves are turning yellow, like coming in with a paintbrush and painting the leaves green, like, oh, it's not right that these leaves are brown. They need to be green like the others. Let's color match, and let's get these leaves painted. To me, that seems like what the dad's doing, trying to teach this girl about religion, because that's not the point. That's not why she did that. It's not about the religion. So this brings me to the point where the idea of how exactly do you build significance into your child's life from an early age. I raised a kid many years ago, so but I'm not the perfect parent, so take this with a grain of salt. But this is sort of what I've learned over the years, is you have to, first of all, inherently know what your own values are. Like what are some things that you want to see in your own child? It could be any or all of the above. You want to see your child behave generously, kindly to others, respectfully. And for me, I wanted to see my child's develop self-control. That was a big one for me and my own personal value, because my opinion is that if a child is equipped with self-control, then that will serve them well throughout their entire life, in the sense that they'll be less likely to develop addictive behaviors. They'll be more in control of their decision making, and their careers will go better. Their interpersonal relationships will be much more calm and stable, less dramatic, and they'll learn delayed gratification. So So let's take that as an example of a value that if you are adopting that value, that you want to see your child adopt as well. So first of all, in your household, it is important. You absolutely have to develop a family culture, and that only comes through spending time with your child, and with your whole family together, all together. Ideally, I know that's not always easy to do, but so for this idea of this value of self-control, what I would do to my child is I would actively seek that behavior in my child and immediately call it out and praise it in a realistic way. So for example, let's say a child accidentally breaks their toy, or another child comes and takes it, or a sibling or something, and if they react calmly, which it might be uncharacteristic for them, and they kind of just, moved on to play with something else, for example, then you would immediately say, like, wow, I saw that when your toy got taken away from you, which is a very frustrating situation, you seemed to act calmly, like you didn't let it bother you that much. And I think that's more than a lot of adults can do. So that's great that you did that. I commend that. And your language, of course, would reflect the appropriate language for the age of the child. But if you do this enough times, it'll draw the child's attention to that behavior, and they will begin to adopt that. Next time their toy is taken or something frustrating happens, they're going to remember what you said, whether it's like literally remembering it or just feeling that the embodiment of that ideal or that value, and they're going to start to build that arsenal of or that technique for how to redirect their emotions towards a more calm and measured and calculated response to a frustrating event. And the other way to reinforce that is, of course, if you have a significant other, your spouse, like if your husband comes in or your wife, whatever, and then you say, hey, look what little Timmy did. Like, so Timmy was playing with this toy and it got taken away from him. And instead of having a tantrum, instead of crying, he kind of just calmly, looked for something else to play with. Isn't that remarkable? And hopefully the other parent's on board with that, and other parent will reinforce that and be like, yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that's I don't think I could have that kind of, self-control. So that's just an example of the value of self-control, but you can do the same thing with your set of values that you have for yourself and for your family. Like I was mentioned, some of the other ones are kindness, generosity. Hopefully the kind of values that you want to instill in your child are ones that are universally accepted and loved, like, kindness, friendliness, being loving, kind to animals, willing to help others, helpfulness. But and this plays into what I was saying earlier about building that family culture. Building a family culture is what that is all about. Is opportunities to model how an appropriate reaction it would be to a variety of situations. So that's going to require that you actively create some family tasks or events or outings, for example. And it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You can just say, oh, tomorrow's Saturday morning or Sunday morning, so it's going to be, let's say it's kite day. We're going to go to the store and buy some kites and fly them around the park for a few hours. The kids might, depending on their age, they might think, oh, that's stupid. And it doesn't matter if they think it's stupid, but the idea is that, so you're out there flying kites, and of course, flying kites is a skill, so you're going to have a lot of mess ups, a lot of like, why can't my kite, why is my kite doing that? And you get to model for your kids how to respond to frustrating situations, how to respond to problem solving. When they see how you do it, then that's going to build in their own mind. They're gonna file that away as in their library of emotional tools, and they're gonna start to respond to the world in the same way. And of course, with something like kites, you can get into the physics of it and stuff, or hey, let's look it up. Let's look up what's the best way to fly a kite, and figure it out. And it's a dumb example, but yeah, I think you get the point where as often as possible throughout the week, have these moments where and then have the kids make up their own too. Like, hey, tomorrow's our family building day or whatever. So what do you guys want to do? Maybe make up something. You want to color pictures? You want to go out to the park? The idea is the more time you spend together, the more you're able to model to your children how you behave and what the appropriate response would be. And if you act inappropriately too, then tell your kids like, okay, I messed up there. This is what I should have done, but instead I did this. I'm going to try to do better next time, because not everybody responds to frustration the same way. That all depends on your own upbringing too. If you had disengaged parents or you weren't modeled properly how to respond to life's curves, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Going back to this post on Reddit, I think this parent, if the kid's 13 already and is acting out like this, I don't know if it by that age it's too late. Maybe it's not, but to try to spend time with the kid and not in a punitive sense, but taking the kid from church to church is cool, but I think that's beside the point. That's something that should have been done probably a long time ago. And it sounds like again, and a lot of parents are kind of disengaged like this. I mean, your family ideally should be more than just some people living in the same building. It should be, you should build that culture. If you're going to have children, then you absolutely have to make culture building a priority. And you can even go as far as using your own family last name, like, oh, Smiths don't do this. This is like, if your children see you doing something kind, like, well, that's just what Smiths do, and again, it's going to sound cheesy, but it is going to go a long way towards building that culture. And if their kids see you being kind to someone, and in their mind they associate that with being a Smith or whatever the last name is, then when this kid's in school, they will have already built that inner sense of significance. When you spend that time calling out the values, the values that they are exemplifying, they're going to feel that sense of significance already. So they're going to be less prone to lashing out at others or engaging in negative behavior to get that attention. They're going to feel a sense of family pride. They're going to feel a sense of duty. They're going to feel a sense that their behavior is reflecting on the family and on themselves. And in fact, kids who have a well-established sense of significance are more prone to stand up against bullies. So I'm not at age 13, though. I don't know what can be done at this point. I'm sure something can be done. But I think this dad taking the kid to the churches and creating arguments, and the wife's clearly not on board. She's saying that he's being harsh, and his aunt, for some reason, decided to chime in. So I don't know. It just sounds like a difficult situation, but if you have younger kids, then to avoid something like this, then definitely start building that culture now. And if this person describes himself as being in a non-religious household, which is perfectly fine. You can build culture. As I mentioned before, you don't necessarily have to have religion, but of course, if you are Christian, or another religion than taking your child to synagogue or church. That's definitely a very easy way to build a culture. But you also have to be careful that you don't act duplicitously, where in church you behave one way, but at home you're a completely different person, because kids will definitely pick up on that. They're going to be like, wait a minute. So that's a difficult one if your hypocrisy is exposed that clearly, where you're a tyrant at home, but at church you're just like the nicest, sweetest person. Then yeah, that's not gonna establish the culture that you want. It's gonna make your kids bitter, and resentful to you in the future. They're gonna go through a phase where they just hate you. So I did want to do something else here that's kind of not in the sort of off topic, I guess, but sometimes I go to Amoeba Records, that's by where I live in Los Angeles, and I just buy a bunch of records. And this one I picked up, I've heard of this guy for a while. This is Charlie Crockett, $10 Cowboy. So this album is like, Charlie Crockett's a funny guy. Apparently he's related to the historical and famous Davy Crockett. I think he's some kind of distant cousin or something, or great grand something. But I like the simplicity of his music. It's like music that's made for people who aren't musicians. I imagine it's sort of like that new form of country where it's kind of an homage to the older style of country. So it's kind of like him and Sierra Farrell and a whole handful of other artists that are sort of trying to bring back the old school of country music, back in like the 50s probably, or 40s even, just super basic, or maybe 60s too. But one of the tracks that I like on here the most is probably Lead the Way. And let's see. Yeah, this kind of music that Charlie Crockett makes is the perfect kind of music for if you have a long road trip that you need to go on, and so you're driving as the sun's coming up and you're watching the desert highway go by, and you're sipping a hot beverage, a coffee, and and you got this playing in the background as you're driving. That's what this kind of music reminds me of. It's just good, basic, old school country music, and I would recommend this album. Of course, you can't play vinyl in your car, so just download it on Spotify or whatever. So okay, I guess that's it. My name is Charlotte, and you are watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. I post every Sunday afternoon, Pacific time, so I don't know when you see it, but please share this show if you like the kinds of things we talk about, the things I talk about. And we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you very much. Bye.